Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, no matter where you are in the world. This is Howie, and I'm here to help you win with money. Today is the last day of the year, December 31st, 2022. In this video, we're going to cover all the things that I did for 2022, and I'll talk about the plan, and I'll review the results, and then I may even talk about what I'm going to try to do differently for the next year. So let's get right to it. Before I start off with the actual data and the details, I just want to go over real quickly what my approach is. And I'm not going to cover everything in detail. I have videos, I have years of videos on YouTube that will explain it. But really, the first step is like everybody else knows, you got to live below your means. You need to do a budget. You should know how much money you're spending. You need to be cash flow positive. And then for me, I think of investments the same way. Not just do you need to be cash flow positive, but you need to be able to add a dollar, right? If everything you're doing is always adding new assets, even if you're collecting it $1 at a time, that is good enough. Then the next step is really simple too. That's what KISS mean, right? Keep it simple. Stupid. We want to use a method or approach that's not only simple, but it needs to be easy for everybody to replicate. If it's a system that's really hard or you need a specific skill to do, then that's not a simple process. I use the S&P 500 in my 401k plan. On top of that, I do have some dividend stocks because I've been a dividend investor for over 20 years now. So I do have some dividend stock, but for me, pretty simple, always passive. You don't need to trade in or out. There's nothing, I don't do anything complex. I don't need technical analysis. I don't read charts. I don't need to know anything. There is something that I do that's a little bit more complex, and that's why it's under the level 102. I do use options to reduce some of my overall portfolio risk. And I just mentioned most 401k plans are you're 100% long and you have to be long in stocks. But if stocks drop, just like it did in 2022, there's not much you can do. You don't have a lot of protection there, unless you were in bonds or sitting in cash. And I'm not going to do that. So I use options because I can make money in options when markets are flat or when markets are going down or when market is moving in what we consider like a normal expected move. I can make money even when the markets are moving up. So options reduces overall portfolio risk. My 401k plan, I've been posting my 401k plan for the last couple of years on social media. But really what I don't care about is the value. I want you to look at the new capital added. Now, I don't have the exact data because my company is actually changing providers and we're moving our accounts to Fidelity. And because of that, I had no access to my account for the last 5 days or maybe even longer. I think it was prior to Christmas, and the transition doesn't finish until maybe the first few days of the next year. So I couldn't get the exact number of how much capital I added, how much match I got, and how much is my actual 401k plan. But it was somewhere in this area. My ESPP plan, what you will notice is I'm adding about $4,000 a year. Here's the part that's really interesting. My dividends that I gotten in 2022 is about 11 grand and change. I mean, 12 grand and change, almost 13. I've been getting about $1,000 a month, and I have been for the last couple of years. But I think this year we're so close to 13, and I think next year we're gonna definitely cross it because there was some huge dividend increases for 2022. My options trading has done pretty good. Now that the year is over, I was able to get the final numbers, and the final numbers were my profit was $19,000, which is nearly double what I made in 2021. And remember, 2021 was a great year in the market. The market was up like 25%, but I had a lot of cover calls, and so your cover calls didn't make too much. I probably made a little bit more in like spreads and iron condor. This year was the opposite. My cover calls did better, and my spreads and other things not so well. Next is I cover some of these points Marriott points. You can see it here. I collect a lot of different things. But if you want, there's going to be a different video that talks a little bit more about this. But I wanted to show you that I have about 503,000 points. It says I stayed in a hotel 60 nights a year. That is not all stays. I get credited for 30 stays. And then when you redeem nights using your points, they mark those as nights. And so this year I had a lot of activities and events and travel, and I redeemed those over 200,000 points. And so I had a lot of hotel stays this year. Most of them I did not pay for, and the ones that I did were generally low tier, less than $100 a night. And most of them I got 2 nights for every one night I stayed in the hotel, and that's how I hit my 60. Because if you stay 5 nights, it counts as 10. What do I use as a measuring stick? Even as a financial coach, I don't really care about somebody's income. Now, I do look at net worth, but I also look at how much new capital are you investing each year. Think of this as like a different spin of cash flow. While most of us understand cash flow is just how much money you got extra at the end of the month, what I'm looking for is how much money are you putting into assets each year. So I measure how much money do I put aside for the future. And here you go. My chart this year is showing me $48,000. And it looks kind of strange because less than 20% or a little bit, maybe right, 21 or 22% of it is really coming from my income, from my W-2 job. 11,000 of it is coming from my paycheck. But the rest of it is coming from my other assets that I already have or other things that I'm doing that generates money. I am buying crypto, so I put a chart there, and it's not a lot. I'm dollar cost averaging, and I do really small bets. We're talking about sometimes $50 a month here. Sometimes I put in $100 a month. Sometimes I double up, but it's not a lot. So if it goes to zero, I'm fine with. The $48,000 that I'm putting away, if the typical American is able to save 15% of his salary, that's like saying I made $323,000 in my income, and if I save 15% of my salary, that will equal to about $48,000. Now, if a person can't save 15%, and if you use 10% as the benchmark, it almost means that the amount of money I'm setting aside, it's like someone who earns $500,000. Now, that doesn't mean I want a vacation like somebody who makes $500,000 or drive the car that somebody who makes $500,000. But what it means is if that person does make that much money and if that person is saving 10 or 15%, my retirement plan and my net worth will be comparable to theirs. So that's the beauty of it, because that is my strategy, is to have less dependency my W-2 job to fund my retirement, and I want other things to fund my retirement. I want my assets to continually build and snowball and add into my future, so I do less and less and less and let everything else do more and more and more. And one thing I wanted to talk about is how does $40,000 or $48,000 snowball? I put a really quick compounding chart here, and I use data for myself. If I am age 50, I just turned 50, and if I was able to put $45,000 a year, if I'm able to get 6% rate of return per year, and assuming I'm starting at $0, what this chart is telling you is in 10 years, I'll have $673,000, and in 15 years, when I'm age 65, I have $1.1 million. At this point, let's go and switch into Excel, and I want to show you some data. Here you go. I got a spreadsheet that I use, and let's change this number to my data. So I'm age 50. Let's I'll show you how this works. If you got $1,000 and you add nothing to it, this is how it will grow. As you can see, by the time I'm 67, it's only $32,000 at 6%. If you can get 9% rate of return, that's how it changes. If you can save, let's say, $2,000 a year, that's how it would change. If you already have $25,000 today, this is what it looks like. Now, the beauty about this is I can plug in any number in and I can forecast this into the future. Put the numbers back to what I was showing you. If I can save $45,000 a year with zero value today, oh, and I'm 50, age 50. By the time I'm age 60, in the 11th year here, I will have 673. And again, by the time I'm 65, it's $1.1 million. There's no way I have zero because I already showed you that I'm earning about $12,000, nearly $13,000 in dividends. So if you just plug in any fictitious number in here, you will see how this can grow. So you can see that. If you assume that I have a 50 grand, you can see how 50 grand will grow to a million in my scenario. If you think I have $250,000, what it's showing you is by the time I'm 53, 4 years from now, I have $1.3 million. But a lot of it is because I'm putting in this huge amount. You can see that the compounding interest really snowballs, and I'm using 6% in my forecasting. Based on what I'm doing today, I'm going to add another $1 million of net worth just in the new money that I'm starting from today. Make this a little bit more pessimistic. Right after year 2029, I'm not going to add in new money. So by changing this number to 8, the way I designed this is, boom, it automatically changes it. So my numbers are fluid. I'm only able to do this for 8 more years. So in this scenario, it will take me to age 71 to hit $1 million. But the beauty of this is, if I can only do this for the next 8 years, you can see what the value is. By the time I'm 60, I'll still add about $500,000 more to my net worth doing what I'm doing today. On this slide, this is for those who follow my $1 a day method. I know I don't talk about this a lot anymore, but I had an old video that talks about how I think, and I have different levels. My first strategy is really focus on trying to make $1 a day. Then I'm trying to make $10 a day. Then I'm trying to make $100 a day. And then my last go is, can I get that bar up to $1,000 a day? And then I do it for each category. So here you can see my 401k saving rate is about $19 a day. I'm really far from hitting $100 a day, and same with the matching. But what's really cool is you can see over the years, my dividend income is now $35 a day. My option income now is worth about $53 a day. All these other stuff are gone down or zero. I used to have rental income, I don't anymore. And then this is my ESPP plan. But when you add all this up, this equals over $100 a day. Well, that would make sense because if it's $100 a day, it'll be it'll be $36,000, and I'm already at 48. So really, that's my goal. I have different benchmarks that I set for myself. The last thing is, what are my new goals? For me, I definitely want to hit over $50,000 in new capital next year. My goal for trading will be a little bit higher. I would love to hit over $22,000. Let's talk about something that most people either want to know or question. One of the big ones is, am I debt free? The answer is no. Now, I used to be. I became a Dave Ramsey financial coach, but long before that, I was debt free for many years. I had bad credit. And when I switched my mindset, I came to the realization that it's okay for me to have some debt. Now, it sounds backwards, and I know it does. Before there was the fire movement, I was doing something similar to it, and I hit my coast fire goal before I was age 30. In the last 20 years, I have let that money compound. By all means, have exceeded my expectations, and I feel 99% certain that it will meet my retirement number. Now, I have ran into some issues. I lost my primary home as well as losing all my rentals home. Now that was hard, and I'm not going to tell you it's easy. I lost well over $700,000 or $800,000 of assets, and it caused a lot of pain. Right? It causes problem with your marriage. It causes a lot of issues with the kids. You're forced to move a lot as a renter. People look down on you. People think you're a deadbeat, whatever it may be. And then everybody think you're an idiot, and I'm okay with that. I had to live through that. I own it. None of that impacted my retirement accounts. While the value of the homes, I think the other day I calculated, I think it would have been worth 1.4, $1.5 million today because it has no impact on my retirement account. And this is why Coast Fire is so important. Coast Fire is saying you never need to save another penny or dollar ever. And if you just let the money that you already saved compound, you will have enough at your normal retirement age. I never talk about debt to income ratio, and I don't do it with clients because income is such a, I don't want to say excuse the data, but there are people who I work with who are making 250, 3, 4, $500,000, and so it skews it. It's like, oh well, my debt is small. Well, your debt is not small. Your income is just larger than most people, and so the ratios look like they're okay. But when you add up how much interest somebody's paying, or you add up what they can afford to pay down, it just still takes too long. I look at something totally different. I use a debt to asset ratio. That's what I use for myself. That's what I expect out of my clients. My debt is so small, and I listed here, it's generally between 1 to 5% of my total net worth. And what most people don't understand what that means is if I just use my dividend income, it will be more than enough to cover all my interest on the debt that I carry. I don't have a $500,000 home or mortgage on a home because one is I don't have a home anymore. I told you I lost all my homes already. But my debt is so small, my dividend interest can cover all my debt interest. One of the things that works for me is as long as my assets continue to outgrow my debt, then it's fine. So I'm able to do things that other people can't do. I can have a negative cash flow. I can borrow money when it's cheap. I bought a new car, didn't have to pay for it cash. I borrowed at 3.2% interest rate. Some people say you can pay cash for it. I get it, but I also own dividend stocks that pay way more than 3%. I think my Ford shares are now up to 4 or 5%. I have dividend stock that pay much higher than the cost of borrowing. On top of that, I still have some capital appreciation that I can get. So this is why for me, owning asset just makes more sense. I can generate way more positive cash flow just from the assets that I have than the negative or the what you're offsetting. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a cost of borrowing money. It's not zero. I do have some 0% credit card transfer. There is a fee to those too. It's generally 5%. Hey, if you want way more details, I have several other videos coming out. One of them will go over all the travel hacks summary that I did for 2022. I'm going to have a video that talks about the results of my options challenge for the 234. That's what I did in 2022. I definitely made money, and I'll go over the details of what I learned from that challenge. And then the last video is what is my new challenge for 2023? What I'm going to do different? What did I learn from the previous year or this current year, and what I'm going to do different in 2023? So keep a lookout for those videos. I dive into the details a little bit more. So thanks again. Don't forget to like, subscribe, As always, let's do this together. Let's do this $1 at a time. Have a profitable day. Bye bye.